You have really good questions.
Did my guitar hero just say that to me?
Hey everybody, welcome to Strange Device. I cannot be happier than I am right now to share with you a conversation I'm having with David Wallimann. David Wallimann is a composer and a musician. He's been in music for several decades now. He was a member of the prog rock band Glass Hammer. He's collaborated with Dweezil Zappa. He is my absolute favorite guitar instructor on YouTube with over 200,000 subscribers. He's a genuinely amazing, sweet, nice, nurturing, positive guy. And that's how he approaches his guitar instruction. And he's building a community on his channel where I really feel like people can go and feel safe as they are on their guitar journey. So I'm so thrilled to have him here. David Wallimann, welcome to Strange Device.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know if people see, but I had a huge smile when you were doing your intro, so I really appreciate it.
The first question I have is, why guitar?
What a good question. I started when I was 15. Originally, I wanted to play drums, actually, and we talked a little bit about that previously. Yeah. I wanted to be a drummer, and it was just too expensive to get all the components and stuff. And I had a few friends who fell into guitar, and I just wanted to be one of the cool guys in school. So really, I started with, it was almost like, it wasn't really the passion at first. It was, I want to be cool, I'm going to pick up guitar. But then I really fell in love with it a few months after starting. And that's why I stuck to it for so long.
Yeah, so I think that's a familiar story, people backing into it perhaps for the the cool factor.
I wish I could tell you, it's because I had so many things to say and, I wanted to express myself, which is what it came after. But no, originally it was just, typical teenager picking up something, wanted to be cool.
And actually, you know what, that one of my other questions I had, we'll go to it right now, is I think the way a lot of people embark on playing sports, playing an instrument, doing anything that requires craft and skill, is they usually look at the pros and they imitate them. They look literally like physically, like if you're trying to play tennis, like what do they look like when they're swinging, right? And then from there, you get to a certain point and then you decide, I need some instruction here. I need some formal instruction. Do you think that's a surefire way to develop really bad habits that you can't get out, or it's hard to get out of? Or do you feel like it's actually a nice entree for you to find your own way and then get the help you need?
I think it's a good way to get in. I think if you approach it as the fun factor or whatever it is, without thinking about all the difficult parts of developing a skill, that's good. Because, you start enjoying it. And, if you can keep that as you're getting into maybe more complex things like studying theory, scales, and things like that, if you could keep the enjoyment and the love for music, then you'll be fine no matter where you go. But I think it is a good entryway to start with that, with the fun factor.
And I love that I feel like you just coined a phrase, the fun factor. And I feel like that has to constantly be there. So you've been playing for, I think, like over 30 something years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So someone like you're constantly finding the fun factor. You have to make sure that the fun factor still exists, right?
Yeah. If not, in some ways, what's the point? Because it's just music. There's more important things in life than music. As much as I love music, there's more important things like, kids and things like that, whatever, your spouse and things like that. So it's gotta be fun. If not, and I know it because there was a period of my life where it wasn't fun anymore, but when I was in my 20s, I wanted to become the best guitar player in the world. And I realized that that's chasing something that doesn't exist. And I'm so glad it doesn't exist because that would lose the fun factor.
It's really good to make sure that you're challenging yourself and you're like, what's the next little step I can take to improve? But at the same time, you're doing it because you love doing it, not because it's just a yardstick, right?
Yeah.
You grew up in France and you came to the US. I think like well into adulthood, right?
Yeah, I was 25-ish.
So do you feel that growing up in France informed your musical palette in terms of what was available to you in the culture? You know, what the sort of dominant tropes in music were in France, and if that basically has informed your music, you know, moving forward. I think of like Stuart Copeland, grew up in Lebanon, and so he's got these rhythms that are really cool and not typical for rock. People think he's a reggae drummer, but it's actually, he talks about how it's from Lebanon. It's not a reggae thing.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I think so, but maybe not so much in the choice of scales, phrasing, and things like that. More in the cultural sense, I think. And I was thinking about that recently. There are certain bands, like iconic bands, that I like, but I'm not like an ultra fan. An example would be Led Zeppelin. Okay. Every guitar player is in love with Led Zeppelin. I kind of get why, but I've got to be honest, not fully. Not because their music is not good. It is. But I think it's because they didn't really grow up with all those sounds. Not to say that, you know, French music is completely different than US. It's very heavily, you know, US inspired. But like some of those bands, like Led Zeppelin, I didn't really grow up with them. Or Rush. I discovered Rush when I moved to the States when I was 26. So I didn't really grow up with those bands. And I think in some ways it must have influenced me a little bit, not having those pillar, you know, bands. Yeah. I'm not quite sure how it transpires in my music, but I know that mentally I feel that there is a difference culturally in what I do. Yeah. I don't think people could hear it because it's still very much Western music based, rock based. But I think in the way that I hear music, it changed things a little bit, maybe.
You have the ability to utterly melt faces. I've seen you play where it's just like a whirlwind. It's amazing, you know, insane legatos and sweep picking. And, you know, you do all the things that we watch people do and are just, you know, our jaws are on the floor. But you also make sure that your music has singable melodies and pleasing harmonies. And, you know, like we discussed, you put storytelling into your music. Do you feel like today that's a thing that you have to consciously think about when you sit down to compose or to improv? Or is it just sort of second nature to you?
It's not a conscious thing. I think it comes naturally. And I also think that it comes from the fact that I don't feel like I'm a very technical guitar player.
And I'm interesting. Looking at you, it seems like you are.
No, I don't think I am. And that's why when I do those things, it doesn't last very long, because if it did, it would just go down the toilet. But I'm okay with that. I've always been more attracted to just melodic things I can remember. And you know, it's interesting. We talked about my teenage years, getting into guitar, wanting to be a rock star and things like that. I would never have confessed that at that time because I wanted to be cool. But I love like simple things, like Dire Straits is one of my favorite bands. Like just pretty simple stuff. I mean, he's got his own touch, but I don't know. I really like simple melodic ideas. That's really what I love in music. More than anything else. I've always loved discovering what I hear in my head and trying to translate that on the instrument instead of starting with the guitar, which I did for a while, but it was not really fulfilling to me. I love starting imagining what I want the song to be in my head without a guitar, without anything. And then once I can kind of hear it, I'll try to replicate it, even if it means when I'm recording an album or something like that, even if it means that I am recording 2 notes at a time and then do a punch in for the next note. I don't care about how it's done as long as it sounds the way that I want it to sound at the end. Yeah. Which is kind of, to me, it's kind of I like that because it gets away the competitive nature in guitar, you're cheating because you're doing it this way, you're slowing things down. I don't believe in cheating in music. I just like the end result? Does someone feel something when he hears it? If yes, then great.
If you're painting a painting, we don't see how you get the final product on the canvas. And, painters have for centuries, they've used a camera obscura and they actually trace the image onto the canvas. Then they paint, right? And you could call that cheating, or you could say it's what they do with the colors afterward and the brush strokes that's important.
Yeah. I think as long as they don't say, yes, I did this from scratch,
right,
then it's not cheating. It's okay.
You've played live with bands, so in a collaborative, in the moment with people right then and there, and you've played with people now over the internet. You want to talk about like the pros and cons of sort of like being in a space physically together versus like maybe trading files back and forth and sitting with something and recording that way?
I don't really see negative things in either of them. I just see them as differently. Collaborating with other musicians in the same room, it's awesome. And it's more almost like gut instinct type of thing, because you've got to make decisions fast. You've got to react to what the other musicians are bringing in. And it's more of a collaborative thing that organically happens. And I like that. It's really cool because even if you have a fairly good idea of what you're going to try to write together, the end result is always a little different and surprising in the good way, oftentimes. Yeah. So I really like that aspect of surprise thing. You're opening this box and you kind of know what it's going to be, but you don't in the end.
Yeah.
I haven't done that kind of thing for a few years now. And the online thing is also really cool because now you can sit with the idea, the files that you're getting, and it really forces you to engage your ear without the instrument. Or it doesn't force you, but it's a very good way to do it. In a band setting, you have your guitar here and you automatically think like a guitar player as soon as you're holding the instrument. Yes. And so you will go towards the pentatonic stuff, the patterns that you're used to. Whereas if I get a song, I forced myself at first to just really not have a guitar at all and just listen to the song in the car or walking or whatever. And you're no longer, it's really interesting. Whenever you're not holding the guitar or not seeing the guitar, you start not thinking like a guitar player and you're thinking about, oh, I'm hearing this thing. That's really cool. It's not pentatonic based. I don't know what it is, but it fits so well. And then you sit with it and then you grab your guitar and then what you play is not necessarily super simple or intuitive to play. But once you figure it out, it just matches the song so much better sometimes. So it's just different.
It reminded me as well to connect these two that you actually do advise your students to listen to a piece that if you're going to contribute to a piece, listen to it and do not touch your guitar and just sort of sing what you feel would be good for it. Right. And then you find that on the guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Not that it would sound bad if you had your guitar, but it's going to sound like a guitar player and maybe not really like you.
So now let's go to the controversial part of the interview.
Okay.
I'm going to throw out two guitarists and you have to quickly tell me which one you choose and maybe why. Okay. Jeff Beck versus Jimmy Page.
Jeff Beck.
And I knew you were going to say that based on what
right. Yeah. Just because I know Jeff Beck more than Jimmy Page.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a very polite reason.
No, and that's really the truth. That's why.
Yeah. Jimi Hendrix versus Eric Clapton.
Oh, that's a hard one. Hendrix, but I really like both. Yeah. I'll say Hendrix because I did not like Jimi Hendrix for decades. I didn't understand the hype. I thought he was a sloppy player and all of that and didn't play well. But then I got it. And the reason I didn't understand was because of those teenage years where I was so much into technical stuff on the guitar and practice with a metronome and everything had to be perfect. Yeah. And I didn't allow myself to like anything else. And then I understood that Jimmy was he's not playing on the beat, but he's playing with the beat. Oftentimes he'll play notes just a little bit after that beat comes, and it gives it this really cool in control feeling, which I perceived for years as sloppy. But once I understood that, I started really listening to his music, and I really love what Jimmy does. So I get it now.
I really love Vernon Reid, and I feel like a lot of people say it sounds like Vernon Reid when he plays, he's out of control. But when you sort of study him, you realize he's completely in control. But he's taking it to the edge. But he knows what he's
exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Those high wire acts, those are the ones that are sometimes so amazing to watch and listen to. Alex Lifeson or Nancy Wilson?
Probably Alex Lifeson.
Yeah.
And because I know him more too.
Yeah.
I know his music more.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay. How about George Benson or Joni Mitchell?
Probably, it's hard. I'll say Benson, probably.
Yeah.
I like both. It's so hard,
Yeah.
You need to give me a crappy guitar player versus a really good one. But how can you do that?
Give you the most difficult choices possible. So.
There's no crappy players anyways. That goes against my whole thing. So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Do you remember a specific moment maybe where you had some kind of a breakthrough and you felt like for the first time, wow, I can actually do this thing. Like I can proceed with this instrument and get good at it, whether it was like mastering a kind of a technique or getting a certain kind of theoretical understanding that made you feel like I can commit to this and I think it can go somewhere, that I will be proud of.
I can think of two moments, but they were not really a breakthrough in terms of understanding. Well, first of all, from the moment I picked it up, I always knew that it would stay with me for the rest of my life. And I never really approached it like something that I needed to completely master, except for those very early years. So, but I think there are two key moments in my playing. The first one was early on. It was probably, 16, something like that. I started on a classical guitar and then got my first electric. And I was in my room back in France, just kind of playing, practicing, whatever. And my mom called me, "Hey, David, come check this out on TV. Like, there's this documentary on this guitar player." And in my mind, I was like, I'll check it out. But, Mom, it's going to be an old guy, a jazz guy or whatever. I was not into that at all at the time. But it turns out it was this guy. He had a really cool electric guitar, talking about guitar in a way that it was like this really cool thing. He seemed like a clean guy, not one of the drug alcoholic guys that I never really was into that scene. And so, that's cool. Like, that means that you could be a rock star and not be, a drug addict or whatever. Okay. And he talked about it in a way that made sense and very melodic and stuff like that. Well, it was Joe Satriani who was doing that. And that was really a breakthrough. And that told me, oh man, like I really get what he's saying. He's super melodic and technical at the same time. Seems like a cool guy. So that was early on. That was one key thing in my playing that got me curious about other things like music theory and stuff like that. And the second one is not that long ago. It was maybe 10 years ago or something like that. I was working for an online guitar website called Jamplay. And what they do, or what they hired me at the time, was to cover songs and teach how to play solos, which I don't really do in my teaching practice, but it was a gig, so I did it. And the song was, I think it was a Nirvana song, a Nirvana solo, which in my mind, again, like those teenage years kind of creep in your adulthood, and you still have that little voice in your head that says, "Oh man, you're so much better than this guitar player," which I don't want that, but. When I had to learn this Nirvana song, I thought I'm going to teach that. Oh, that's going to be a breeze because Kurt is not a good guitar player. in the standards of, you know, what we're talking for guitar players, he's not necessarily a good guitar player, great songwriter, and I struggled so hard to teach that thing. I could not do it. And that kind of made me realize that it's not necessarily a technical thing that I can't do, but when Kurt was doing this solo, it wasn't something planned. He was just using his guitar as a means of expression. And it doesn't matter if he knew scales or not. The song, we remember this song, and it's a cool solo, even though it doesn't make sense in terms of theory. It's still cool. And that kind of, I thought about that a lot, and then I realized that I really don't need to have this mentality where I need to do everything perfectly, or I need to be. There's no levels in music. I realized that at that time, and that it's just. We don't rate someone's ability to speak when we're having a conversation. So why would we do that in music and guitar? So that was the second really key moment in my playing. And that gave me confidence to be okay with my playing and just enjoy music more, enjoying other players more. Because I don't know, there was always this little voice in my head that liked what that person was doing, but was also, man, I need to beat that guy. And no longer am I like that. And those were two key moments, I think, in my playing that solidified the fact that really music is a language, and it doesn't matter if you have 10 billion record sales or 0, or if you play music in your bedroom, we're all in the same boat. There's no levels. You know, it's interesting. Yeah. Like those two stories are complete opposite players too, Satriani and Kurt Cobain. Totally, I just realized that. It's interesting.
Totally. Also, shout out to your mom for introducing you to Satch. That's cool.
Yes. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. And this reminds me of something I say on my channel a lot, and I put it in my correspondence on the channel, and I even made a video about it recently, is that I feel like it's so important for people to record themselves playing, audio and visual, if possible. If not, at least get the sound recorded, so that number one, you can listen back to it like game tape, right, and kind of see what you were doing. But also, I've been putting up videos of myself playing for almost a year now, and I'm not proud necessarily of what I'm putting out there, but I'm doing it as a tool to make sure that I'm committing to this. And it's sort of like you're accountable to something, right? So it makes me want to get better because people are going to see this. And then also like just this idea, like I think in a David Wallimann world, and you do promote this, like you can get good constructive feedback from other people who are in the same boat as you. Do you want to sort of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, first of all, I completely agree, and something that I've been doing too. I would like to do that more, but there's so many good things that come out of it. First of all, your own snapshot of where you are. You can look back a couple years after, and you can see. One thing that helped me is we all have those like musical phrases that we kind of all play all the time.
Yeah.
And that really brought those things to life. After listening to some of my recordings, I always do this thing, no matter what. And then I started listening to an improv, and I'm like, did I record it? And okay, I'm going to land on this note. And there it is. Yeah, I did. Again.
That's hilarious.
So it really brings those things up, which is good to improve on your musicality and discover new things. So I totally get it, and I think there's a need for it. And that's kind of where we got in touch through the Backstage. I felt a need for not only for students but myself too, to share our music with others and get positive feedback. And so the Backstage is kind of that. It's still in progress. The full thing hasn't been developed yet, but it's a free community where players can go and ask for advice and share their playing and get feedback from others. So I think it's really important to be able to do that for yourself and others too.
David has created a community on this platform called Backstage, and it's a place where people like me who are out in the world and have been following David for a long time, we get to actually interact with him directly in this app. And it has been incredible and it's amazing. And he's been super generous with his time in this forum. And I think I saw the call, you put a call out on a video, and I think within 2 seconds, I went and downloaded the app and joined immediately. I believe I was probably one of the very first people.
I think so.
Yeah,
yep.
I just couldn't believe that you were inviting us in to do this, to hang out with you in this way. It's amazing. It's an amazing way of interacting with somebody who has inspired you so much. It's really great.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. And I'm learning so much from it too. That's the beauty of it. And it's Wallimann.backstage.army to sign up.
Okay, great. Wallimann.backstage.army, and we'll put it up on the screen and in the description.
Sounds good. Great.
I've heard you in interviews talk about, at times in your life, writing music from a dark place. In times like that, do you hope that when people listen to the music that they're understanding the author's intent? Or is it enough to just know whatever it is that inspired you, and then the listener can just take away from it whatever it is that resonates with them? And not necessarily about, things that are, in a dark mood or a light mood, but anything that you're doing.
Oh, that's really an interesting question. And I don't know that I have the answer. I've asked that for myself in movies, for example, not mainstream movies, but things where you don't quite get the end.
Yes.
Do I make my own ending, or do I try to understand what he meant? I struggle with that too. So it's a good question. I guess either way is fine, I think. I guess the main reason, and I'm thinking of the album Evolving Seeds of Glory, which is one of my albums that I released, and that was in a really dark place.
Yeah.
I did it really almost like I had no choice. It is just a way to heal through this process. Because what happened is I was going through a breakup and just a lot of real hard stuff in my life. That was in France. And so it mixed with that, kind of a search for the meaning of life and death, all those important questions that we all ask ourselves at some point or another. And, is there God? Is all those questions.
Yeah.
And I remember for about a year in that dark time, I would go on super long walks.
Yeah.
And I would pray. Is there a God out there? Are you there? I don't know how to call you. I apologize if I call you the wrong name, but if there's someone there that can hear me. And so that is mixed in with that search for truth in my life, which eventually I became a Christian and met Christ in those walks. But all that to say that the music aspect of that dark place, during those walks where I would pray and seek, I also heard music inside. And I didn't have my guitar when I was walking for hours. I would just hear music. And that's what became the album. So I would go back home and try to replicate what I heard during those walks as best as I could, which became that album. And it was a way of healing, because I thought, I want to remember this time, this dark time, but also this beautiful time that gave sense to my life, where I discovered things that it changed me. And so I wanted to commemorate that in a way. And that's what the album is. If people are interested in finding the why and the how, that's great. And I'm very open about it. I'm happy to answer any questions. But if they don't and they just want to enjoy the music, that's awesome too. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, especially instrumental music. It's not representational art, right? This isn't a play.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess there is that sense of that's cool. You can enjoy it on this particular level, and then if you want to explore why the artist did what they did, then you can, that's available to you.
Yeah, I guess that's why I do like instrumental music so much too, because you can kind of put your own meaning to it in a way, and songs have have so much power.
Yeah.
That could be good or bad, but it's power anyways. And I think, put your own meaning to it. That's okay.
Can you talk a little bit about your experiences with maybe playing through an amp and miking an amp versus going direct input and, really shaping the sound maybe a little more from within a digital audio workstation? I think a lot of people who are your students, a lot of us are, bedroom guitarists.
Yeah.
And, and like, I can't crank an amp up in my house with my family. So I'm often, I do go direct in and just, apply all the sounds within the DAW. Like, so what are your thoughts on that difference?
I go direct also. And
cool.
I'm not I've also always felt that there was a disconnect between me and most other guitar players. So I'm glad you're saying this, but most players are really into tone and gear, and I'm not at all.
Yeah.
I don't like to play loud. So that's like, what? Is he a guitar player? But when I play loud, it seems like I lose all my ability to do anything. And I don't like setting my tones and dialing pedals. I like playing with good tones. Yeah. But I've never really spent the time trying to study like placement of effects and things like that. My mind just doesn't work like that. I just get bored and frustrated. So I don't know that I'm the right person to ask. I'm not a purist. Most people will say, real tube amps cranked with a mic in front is the way to go. To me, I don't really hear the difference. I'm not saying that other players don't, but sometimes I wonder, do they really know the difference? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Possibly, but I'm not a gear nut at all. So, like I go direct. Now I use an XFX 3, which is like really high end and expensive. But I got a really good deal on it, so that's why I use it. I think sometimes the downfall of this for me, like for some of the units like the XFX or Kemper or Line 6, is that you could do a lot of things, and sometimes you can do so much that you spend your time just trying to figure out the right sound and you never play.
Yes.
And the XFX does that. There's so much in it, but I just use factory presets. I just turn the dial and play what I like with that. So those are my thoughts. I think music is more important than engineering sounds.
Yeah.
And if back to Led Zeppelin, which now I'm really going to listen to their music because I need to talk about it. But back then, they didn't have all the stuff we have today.
Right.
But they made amazing records, I heard.
Yes, they did. They did.
Right.
And doing weird like pre-lapping with tape and it was all very physical and analog. And,
or Hendrix is good that I'm more familiar with. They had limited tools, but with limited tools, sometimes you have more creativity too. I feel that there is sometimes like this. This is where my French is going to come out. I can't pronounce this in English. I'll try. Analysis, paralysis.
Oh, analysis, paralysis.
Yes, thank you.
Exactly. Yep. Yes.
I think that happens a lot with modern gear. So there's that too. So less is more sometimes, but I'm using something that does a lot more, but I use a lot less of it.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I love it. And actually, I know that there's your one guitar that is your sort of go-to guitar that you really love. Like, so on a similar note, what makes that your go-to guitar? Is it really like how it feels physically in your hands, or?
So you're mentioning the Vola probably. This is the main guitar these days, right here.
Yeah.
I like it a lot, but Vola endorses me, so I get these for very cheap or free. So if Vola is listening to this, don't listen. Go away. No. The truth is, I think pretty much any guitar could become my main guitar. It's just a matter of playing with it long enough so that it becomes comfortable.
Yeah.
Because the Vola at first, I liked it, but it wasn't my main guitar. I was using an Ibanez at the time that to me felt so much more comfortable. But it's just because I had been playing that for years.
Yeah.
That's
Is
all.
that the blue one? Like
that's probably the Kiesel, which is also awesome.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, that one.
This feels more like Ibanez. These days I feel that compared to when I started, my first guitar was like in '93. It was like a Aria Pro 2 Mad Axe. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But it was my main guitar and I loved it. But these days, guitars are so much better and so much more affordable that it would be really difficult to find a really bad guitar that you can never play, I think.
Yeah, totally. The technology is unbelievable these days.
So to answer your question, the reason I love it so much is that I play it so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Going from one guitar to another, you're making just like micro adjustments with your hands, right? And you can do that within 5 minutes, and then just that's how you play that particular guitar, as opposed to the way you play the other one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that makes sense. What kind of pick do you like to use most? Like what size, style, thickness, that kind of stuff?
I go back and forth between two extremes. I go back and forth between the regular Dunlop picks that you'll find in Guitar Center, the cheap ones, or it kind of fell. Oh, here it is. Hang on. V-pick Mummy, which is a thicker pick. It's kind of transparent, but it's pretty thick. So I go back and forth between these two, but it's similar to the guitar. Like one of these two will become my main pick for a while. And honestly, it just has a lot to do with if I have a hole in my pocket or not. If it's in my pocket, that's my main pick, and I'll keep it in the pocket for a while. And so, it does affect your playing a little bit. Not in a good or bad way, just a little different.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to talk about any of my own,
I'm curious
stuff, but it's so funny that you say this. I now play with nothing else but my V pick.
Nice.
I discovered these several months ago. So I have the Screamer.
Okay, I used that for a while too. It's good.
Yeah, and at first they're so thick it feels like you're playing with a 2x4, and there is like a lot of times you can get that really high end kind of clinking that it does on the strings, so then you have to adjust. Maybe you play on top of the pickup, or you angle it a little differently so you don't get that. And but it's so fundy. Once I discovered the thick kind of pick, I love it.
I'm the same. And I don't know if you just ordered or got a chance to talk to Vinny from VPick.
No, I've watched him on YouTube, but I just ordered.
He's a very nice guy too, so that helps too.
And I love that. I mean, he's a guy who just went into his garage and was like, I want to create something that I really like, and then it blew up. It's pretty cool.
Yep,
that's great. In all your years of being an instructor, are there one or two things that you see that like the vast majority of your students need to work on or need to really, master or improve upon in order to move forward? And and I don't know if maybe that's something that might be that they know they need to do this and they want to do it, or if it's, not something that they came to you realizing they needed. Are there a couple of things that you see are kind of constants like that?
It's interesting you bring this up. I thought about that a few weeks ago because I was trying to come up with a new video about that. I think maybe the way that you put your left hand on the strings, because I see a lot of players who have been playing for decades, older guys, not old, older.
Right.
And they've been playing for decades, and they know a lot of things, but they still sound a little clumsy on the guitar, a little uncomfortable. And I think it has to do with the way that you put your fingers on the strings. So there's a lot of teachers. I remember when I took a few lessons, I was taught to put my fingers like straight on the strings, and it comes from the classical guitar world.
Yeah.
But electric guitar is really different. It has the same number of strings and a body, but it's really a different instrument, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think the way to make things sound better and get past this clumsy stage, which will open up new doors, is to actually flatten your fingers on the strings a little bit.
Blasphemy! Wow.
Yeah. And so instead of, I don't know if, this is recorded, but instead of having your fingers straight on the fretboard like this, you have them flat like this.
Wow.
And so the point of contact with the string is going to be, there's going to be a lot more flesh instead of being just the fingertip. It's going to be that where there's a lot more flesh, and you get, it just sounds better, and you get more control when you want to do little vibratos and bends and things like that. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you get used to that, anything you play starts to sound better. You gain confidence, and that typically is all that students need to unlock other things, because most of them feel that, if I don't master this little pentatonic lick, I can never go to something a little more complex like Dorian or things like that.
Yeah.
But they'll never get past that if they don't flatten their fingers, in my opinion. So that would be the one thing.
Wow, it's kind of blowing my mind, because you actually, on Backstage a couple weeks ago, you posed that question. You said, what is the one thing you really would like to work on yourself? You put that to the community. And for me, that is my great white whale right now is I don't feel good about my left hand at all. And it does feel clumsy, and it feels like I'm always like a half step behind the beat, because I have to sort of like get myself to the fretboard, and I have the flying pinky and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And watching YouTube, I would think that the answer is I have to learn how to do that curled thing that you talked about. It's like piano, right?
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating to hear you say that for you, it's really better to do the flat. Wow. So that's something I want to discuss with you further in the future.
Definitely. Really
interesting. It just feels to me physically more natural. But I want, Bernth and all these guys, Steve Stein, like they're just right. They're 2 millimeters away from the strings, and they go up and down.
I should have said this. I guess it depends also on the style. If we're talking like ultra technical fast, maybe a little straighter is better. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but like your typical, like for someone like me, I want to do like rock riffs. And I'm not gonna do sweep picking and crazy legato. Like, so it's interesting. I get it. It's sort of like, what it is, because those guys, what they're doing is more like classical guitar, right? Like the kinds of moves they're making. Wow. Well, I love the fact that you said it's okay to be flat, because
it is.
I've been trying to get away from it, and now I realize like I can actually do that.
Yeah, give it a try.
How often do you change the strings on the guitars that you're actively using? And is there any other guitar maintenance tip you'd like everyone to make sure they're following?
I never change my strings ever.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, unless it breaks. But I got this guitar, the Vola. I don't think I changed the strings ever. If it breaks, I'll change it.
Oh my God! Because you just did a 40-year journey. Was this piece you just put out? You know, and it's produced so beautifully. It's just so slick and clean. It's amazing, and that's on really old strings.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Typically years before I change strings.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah, but I think it might have to do also with maybe the acidity or lack of acidity in your fingers and sweat. Since I don't gig at all, I don't rehearse with bands. I just play here in the studio. That's it. I never sweat when I'm playing.
Yes.
And plus, I don't have to. I'm not anxious about playing in front of anyone because I'm not.
Right.
So there's that too.
The last thing I wanted to ask you is, what are you up to these days that you want to make sure everybody knows about? And, you know, where can I send people right now to check out your latest thing that you're really into?
Yeah, there's really three things, but in parallel, there's the backstage that I want to develop that we talked about a little bit. There is all my licenses are on guitarplayback.com.
Yes.
Right now, my contents, but really the main focus is YouTube.
Yeah.
And I've been on YouTube for 12 years. So I've been doing 2 to 3 videos per week for 12 years, consistent. I see my French again. Anyways, you get it, right? For a long time. And I'm trying to kind of shift things because I kind of got complacent and just doing my lesson as a lecture, sitting down with the guitar, and then here it is. Yeah. I'm trying to have more fun with it, more story-driven videos and things like that. So that's really what I've been working on. And if you wanna see the difference, just look at the older videos, and it's youtube.com/Wallimann, my last name.
Yeah,
so
and we'll throw that up as well.
Check that out. But and just trying to keep a balance, keeping the fun and the things that I do, and
it's very evident as someone who follows you. I think it may have been the Guitar Geek you were talking to, or somebody where you've been talking about how you're constantly trying to figure out how to move your YouTube channel forward. And and I see it. I see you doing it, and I see you. You're becoming way more like interactive with your audience. You're inviting people to contribute their thoughts to you, and so it's very much appreciated from someone who is one of your subscribers. Like,
thank you.
See it, and
thanks. It's same for me. It's I want that, not to grow the channel, but just because personally I want more of that. You guys are awesome. It's just we're on the same boat. We're all guitar players wanting to express ourselves more and enjoy the guitar more, and so that's what it's about. I think we're all in the same boat,
and that's that fun factor, right? Going back to that, like you're partially, I'm sure you're doing it because you want to shake things up and like get, there's that excitement that comes with doing it, kind of changing the format a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, David Wallimann, thank you so very much for spending this time with us today. This was such an amazing special treat for me. I honestly can't believe I'm sitting here speaking with you. It's so great. So cool.
It's been awesome to meet you and talk to you, and you have really good questions. That's
Thank you so much. And anybody who has not yet checked out David Wallimann, I can't imagine there's anybody watching this who hasn't, but if you haven't, I'm going to put all of his info in the description, and please do yourself a favor, do not walk, to go check out all of David's various outlets. He honestly and truly, like I said it at the beginning, you are the person who was my single inspiration, letting me know that I can actually try to do this and move forward because of the way you tell us to approach guitar playing. So I'm like so grateful for that.
I am too. Thank you.